Welcome everybody to the Factset Virtual Career Tuesday session. We are very excited to have two recent alum join us. I guess it's still recent when it's 2020, right? So we're thrilled to have you both here. And first, congratulations on the Glassdoor Best Places to Work in 2023 for Factset.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excited about that. That's a pretty big honor. And I'm going to just give just a 1-minute background, and then I'll introduce you, Courtney and Catherine, and I'll let you take it from there. And we will be going back and forth with some questions. So for the students who are on, please use the chat function to put any questions in there. We'll make sure that you have time to engage and talk a little bit. But I think we need to pay attention to the fact that Factset did 1.5 billion with a B in revenue in 2021. We are talking about a company that's in 22 countries, 48 offices, data analytics, global market insight. And we've asked our alum to join us today to give us a little more insight into what it's like to be a really strong candidate for Factset, right? So we know the outstanding nature of the company, we know the type of jobs that they have, but this session is really unique for business students to know, what do I need to do? How do I put my best foot forward? So we have Courtney. So Courtney graduated in 2021 with a finance degree. Both Courtney and Catherine were here in the fall at our business expo. Courtney, are you coming to the career fair tomorrow? Will you be here?
I will not, no. Unfortunately, I'm actually visiting family out of state currently.
Oh, excellent. Good for you. So other Factset representatives will be on campus tomorrow at the career fair. So this is even better for the students that are joining us today. So as a reminder, we record this, we host it on our YouTube channel. And then I'm going to give Courtney a chance to just kind of introduce herself, and Catherine, and get us started.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kathy, for the introduction. I really appreciate it. So hi, everyone. As Kathy mentioned, I am a UConn alumni as well, so go Huskies, first of all. I am currently a consultant at Factset, which essentially means that I do a lot of proactive and reactive work for different financial professionals. By that, I mean proactive work can be things like when we have product enhancements or when I find unique ways to solve their different problems and workflows, I will reach out to them with those solutions as well as those upgrades and things like that. And in terms of reactive work, when clients have a new type of project they'd like to tackle, or if there's any specific new application that they want to learn more about, do trainings, or if they want to get exposure to new things within the workstation or outside of the workstation, I will do those types of requests as well. I primarily work with institutional asset managers and wealth clients, but we do service a variety of clients here at Factset, so that's not the only ones that we will work with. I specifically started at Factset in October of 2021. I was actually the first October class. Prior to that, we had a September class, but they switched it to October during COVID, just so then we'd be able to come in person sooner. And so now they've kind of kept that October structure going forward. So I'll pass it over to Katie now to tell you a little bit about her role at Factset.
Awesome. Thanks, Courtney. So I'm a UConn alum as well. I graduated in 2020. And I started at Factset shortly after graduation in June of 2020, and took the path we'll talk about today from associate to consultant to senior consultant. And I work in the Boston office with Courtney. As a consultant, I covered both institutional asset management as well as fixed income clients and insurance clients. And then a little over a year ago, I moved into a customer success manager position here at Factset. And we'll talk about career progression and what that means at Factset. And we kind of have a standard first 2 years at the company, and then you can branch out after that. So I branched out into customer success. I'm covering 2 of our largest clients globally in the institutional asset manager space, making sure that we really are building a partnership with our clients, supporting them from a reactive and proactive standpoint. I'm traveling and visiting my clients. I have clients globally from Australia to Hong Kong. I have a huge user base in London. I go down to Baltimore almost weekly at this point. So it's been a really, really great experience. I think just before we jump in, I'll pass it back to you, Courtney, in a second. I know we have some kind of pre-canned questions, but what I wish someone had told me before I started at Factset is, what is Factset? And this is what I tell like my mom and my grandmother and my aunts and uncles and everything. when any sort of like finance professional, business professional needs financial information, whether it's generic markets information or it's specific to their portfolios, they open an application on their computer that is Factset, and we work for the application and we work to help them use it. Very, very similar to Bloomberg. I know there's Bloomberg terminals in the business school. I actually lived in Belden my freshman year, so I got Bloomberg certified, which is now like the unspoken word at Factset. But we help large companies subscribe to Factset. They pay us for maybe 500 logins, right? So we have 500 users that use it for all different kinds of reasons. And Courtney would be someone you go to on a daily basis. Can I have more training on this product? The analytics are off on this security. Can you help me figure out how to do this? Does Factset have this data? I really, really am into deep sector oil and gas data, and we can provide you that. It goes there. There's so much we could possibly go into, but that's kind of a high level overview of what we do, and hopefully kind of better sets the stage for what Factset is. So, with that being said, I'll pass it back to Courtney to get into some of those questions.
Yeah, that was awesome, Katie. Thank you so much for that. I feel like that's a big question we get a lot too, is just kind of what is FactSet? Because you get a lot of exposure in college to specific like financial metrics and how to find these different data items and kind of an overview of the industry as a whole, but you don't really see as much of the day-to-day of what these financial professionals are really using to get this data, make these decisions, things like that. So that's kind of where FactSet steps in and fills those gaps. Particularly today, we're going to mostly talk about the client solutions consulting role as well as the client solutions internship role, because that's going to be what's applicable to all of you. So just a little bit more about this particular area of FactSet. What these particular roles will entail is a combination of both finance and technology. Like we said, we are a market data provider, so you do have to have some of a finance background to really understand what your clients are looking for, what these pain points are, and to find the most unique and best solutions for your clients, as well as the technology side. Since we are the actual software and application that these users are clicking into, there is kind of a steep learning curve in terms of learning how the software actually works. We have our own proprietary coding languages, so learning how to put in these custom metrics and custom data. We also have a coding language that pairs into Excel. Recently, we've been developing APIs as well, so we can run through things like Python and SQL and different applications like that. So there is a bit of a technology background, but a lot of that is covered throughout your training in the consulting period and the internship period as well. So the other side of it too, outside of the finance and technology side, is the client-facing side. Personally, that's my favorite aspect of FactSet, is really getting to know all different types of financial professionals. You really get to see a bunch of different day-to-days from some big shops, small shops, single users versus whole team users, how they interact with each other, how a marketing team might use market data versus a reporting team versus the traders, really getting to understand everyone's different workflows. So another big part of this role is being able to speak with clients, have those high level conversations, being able to know what you don't know and do know, so you can kind of take that back and research and find your best solutions for these clients. And at the end of the day, we are kind of their go-to resource to be able to create the most optimal workflow for them. So I always like to end my new user trainings with saying, I'm always happy to hop on a call. My ultimate goal is to make your life easier, and who doesn't want that at the end of the day? So with that, that's just a little bit about what is FactSet. The next question that I know we had kind of pre-prepared for this is, what is our ideal candidate? So kind of spinning off of that, with FactSet in particular, it's great to have a finance or technology background. However, it is not required. There are people who start at FactSet with several different majors. I will say it helps to do a little homework before if you're not a finance major, just so then when you're in those interviews and you're asked some of those more finance-based questions, you're prepared and you can at least say, I know that this means this. I might not know exactly what it would lead to, but at least showing that you're eager to learn and you're willingness to kind of pick up on these financial concepts, because you will be working with financial professionals. So it's important to be able to understand their language. And on top of that too, our ideal candidates are usually very driven and eager to learn because of that steep learning curve I mentioned at the beginning. Like I said, it's a brand new application to most of you probably. So at the beginning of our training, we actually have a 6-month robust training program. And the first 2 weeks are in Norwalk at our headquarters, really just drilling into the fundamentals of Factset. And then as you progress through the training, it will continue to get deeper and deeper. So you'll do rotations on specific client workflows. You'll do more advanced classes on more advanced applications. You'll do some coding classes. So definitely eager to learn and driven, because you will acquire a bunch of new skills and you will acquire a bunch more knowledge about this platform. Additionally, too, a strong analytical background is always great for us as well. Like I said, it's a lot of creative problem solving. So being able to kind of identify the problem and not only say, okay, this is the problem, but say there's this solution, or if there's not a straightforward solution, here's a workaround I can do, or anything like that. So really being able to see a problem start to finish and being able to understand what the different metrics mean and the different questions that our clients have mean. And lastly, too, I always think it's important for one of our candidates to enjoy working with others. A big part of Factset, if you're on some of these bigger accounts, is working with an account team. So it's not just going to be like, these are my clients, I own them, the end. You're going to have the sales representative. You're going to have a strategic, which is actually more of what Katie's role is now. You're going to have product specialists who you work with. Occasionally, you'll even have a co-consultant who you share the account with. So being able to work with others and kind of having that teamwork and agility aspect to you is a very important component to us at Factset. And Katie, if you have anything to add to the ideal candidate, feel free to jump in here.
Yeah, thanks, Courtney. I would just emphasize like the problem solving and collaboration. I know Courtney touched on like the coding and the analytics products, and it can all be a little intimidating at first when you're not in it day to day. It is the most supportive working environment I could have ever imagined. I have questions 200 times a day, but being able to dive into problems, see as far as I can get, and then I know I have endless amount of resources and people that will help me in a split second answer these questions. So it's not about knowing everything. It's just about really being a hard worker and knowing that you have support and resources backing you up. And throughout your time at the company, you become a resource. And I now have people coming to me asking questions, and I'm so willing to help because of all the help I received when I first got to Factset. So really just being a hard worker and being able to work on teams, I think hits the nail on the head.
Katie,
Definitely.
I love the way that you described, here's how you tell your mother, your aunt, your grandmother what Factset is, right? Because I think that's a big
Yeah.
struggle. Like even when students come up to you at a career fair, you're like, what does Factset do? And then they're still like,
Mhm.
okay, if they can articulate that to somebody else, then they can be a better candidate understanding what the job is. And then Courtney, you and I had a talk a while ago, and we were talking about part of the behavioral interview is how to teach someone something. So
Mhm.
can you talk about that like for a little bit? Because I think that goes back to like what you were saying about, you know, learning something, being eager to learn more, but then it actually, and being able to share that with somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to touch on that. So, with our interview structure in general, it does start out with a first round interview with a recruiter. So, this is just going to be a Teams call, phone call. So, this is a little bit more not casual, but there's nothing you really have to prepare outside of your normal preparation for an interview. And then from there is a 20-minute test assessment for full-time candidates. So this would not pertain to the internship. This is actually something new since the last time we spoke, Kathy. So I just wanted to
Okay.
make sure to include that is going to be in there just for the full-time position starting. I believe they're going to start that for the next hiring wave. So probably this summer that'll be new.
Okay.
But then the portion that you were mentioning, this is still going to be around. Essentially, the final interview day is going to have 2 sections to it. So one of the sections you will actually prepare in advance, and they will let you know to prepare this in advance, a 10-minute presentation on a topic of your choice. The only rule is that it can't have anything to do with finance, which kind of makes it fun for the interviewer and the interviewee because it takes away that pressure of, oh no, like, do I need to be able to explain market cap? Do I have to know what the dividends are doing? Do I have to know this, that? It's actually supposed to be about something you're passionate about. So it's your opportunity to show us how you would articulate and teach, because Factset is such a robust platform. A lot of times we are working with clients who aren't very tech savvy. So how do we teach in that scenario when someone knows nothing about finance or technology or anything like that? How do we teach them? So when you're teaching about something you're passionate about, there's a very high chance that I know nothing about it. So it's a great way for us to see exactly what that would look like. Just to give you an example, when I went through the interview process, I actually did my 10-minute demo on self-defense moves. So I actually taught 5 different self-defense moves as my demonstration. So as you can see, it has nothing to do with like necessarily like anything academic. It's more just, can they articulate it? Did I actually walk away knowing what she was talking about? Was there a clear agenda? Did I know what was going on? Did I get skills from this? Because at the end of the day, we want our clients to leave our meetings and say, oh, this completely makes sense now. She explained this so well. I would love to go back to her with any of my other questions because I know she can make it make sense, even if it's something complex.
Right.
I will say it becomes a fun topic of conversation in the office too. All the new interns come in and we say, what'd you present on? Tell us what your presentation was. And I could
Mhm.
probably there's putting a golf ball and there's shooting a basketball and someone did like mixing cocktails and the science behind it, or someone did making buffalo chicken dip. So it really is a chance to show your personality. And like Courtney said, those like the ability to teach and to speak about something you're passionate about.
And at the end of the day, do you want to sit next to that person? Do you want them to be on their team? You know, that's a wonderful way to let them know a little bit about who they are, knowing that you need to prepare for this, right? This is not something you're going to wing, students. This
Yeah.
is not something, oh, I'll just make up 10 minutes as I'm going. It's really a critical part of the interview. And you touched on something, I think it was you, Courtney. You talked about like community service volunteerism, because that's a big part of Factset as well. So maybe just talk about that, how that relates to, you know, working at Factset.
Yeah, definitely. We have several different volunteer opportunities that are presented to us throughout the year. You're also welcome to bring your own volunteer opportunities to the team and see if that's something that we can kind of share across the board. One that I was involved in recently was actually cleaning up the Esplanade in Boston. So big group of us got together, got to take the whole work day instead of doing any work behind a screen, kind of get outside and clean up. Luckily, the weather wasn't as bad as it is now back then, but it was nice too with team camaraderie, being able to all be out there and being out of that office space and really working together to try to improve our town. And a lot of our other volunteer opportunities can be things more niche. So another one that I've done was actually, for a lot of people probably don't realize this. I personally did not realize this until I did this volunteer opportunity, but there are a lot of areas on like things like Google Maps and such that are not fully mapped out. So if there's a flood or a crisis of some sort, they don't know how many people are actually living there and how many homes they have to get to help save these people. So we actually went through and we mapped out, we like took sections of Google Maps and mapped out wherever there was a building and identified it as such and so on and so forth. That way, if there were ever a crisis, that these people are getting the support that they need.
Wow,
That was a
that's
really
very
fun
cool.
one. We also, for Christmas, we adopt 2 families and we give these families piles and piles of presents and donations and things they need and things they want. And that's always my favorite one, to see like the pile at the end of it. And it's office by office. So, you know, you're helping someone in your community. The person next to you donated a dress and you donated a little doll for the girl or whatever it may be. They brought us down to our headquarters this summer and we were filling up meals for homeless and putting rice into bags and things like that. So there's really no shortage of that around Factset, which is really great.
And that makes it a community that you're working with, right?
Mhm.
Which is why
Mhm.
every time we talk to somebody from Factset, there's joy in your conversations.
Yeah,
So
it
I want to
really is a
make sure
community.
that I give the students a few minutes to ask questions. So I think there's a question here already in the chat. Let me get to this. Yeah, if I can get somebody else read the question, because I can't get my mouse to work at the moment. Judy, can you read
I
the
can.
question?
Saif, do you want to ask your question directly?
Sure. So I know you guys mentioned that FactSet is similar to Bloomberg, but I just wanted to mention that I also see some parallels to Orion, which is another wealth advisor application that is essentially bringing on like the analytics aspects to managing client data and assets. So what specifically differentiates you guys from your competitors, especially because there are companies like Orion and Bloomberg that are
Mhm.
trying to do what you guys are doing?
Yeah, for sure. And that was a really great connection you made with Orion too. There's also, you'll hear of Refinitiv and Cap IQ, and there's a lot of different competitors in this space. Um, there's a bunch of different things that differentiates us. Between someone like Orion specifically, we're not just wealth focused. We have one of the leading wealth applications. It's called Advisor Dashboard. So we have a huge wealth-based platform. We're taking over the US and Canada currently with wealth, which is super exciting. It's the fastest growing portion of Factset. But someone like Orion who might just do wealth, Factset can appeal more because we have wealth, but then if you have another section of your business that maybe isn't wealth focused, we can also offer that. Factset's kind of one of the bigger competitors outside of Bloomberg. Bloomberg's kind of the biggest competitor in this space. Outside of Bloomberg, we compete a lot on our data availability. We have a ton of data and databases. We're adding to it daily that a lot of these smaller shops just can't get access to this data, can't get as much data as we have. We're also working on off-platform solutions. So we were Snowflake's Partner of the Year last year. Not just you have to log into Factset and get your data. We're doing data feeds and data delivery, and like Courtney mentioned, APIs. So there's a content portion to it of what we have that they don't have. There's a capabilities portion to it. Price is a huge portion with Bloomberg. So for those of you that aren't familiar, Bloomberg is kind of a one size fits all. You want a Bloomberg, you're going to pay this dollar amount. I think it's like 25 grand right now. And you're going to get this package. It's kind of one size fits all. Factset's more a la carte, if you will. So for smaller shops that maybe can't afford a Bloomberg workstation, they can come to Factset, tell us exactly what they need, and we'll make them a workstation for them. Maybe less capabilities, but less cost. Another client could need a ton of analytics and a ton of seats. It's going to be more expensive, but they know that they're only paying for what they need. And I know this is a long-winded answer, but I really believe in Factset and everything we have to offer. So the last thing I'll say is our support system is really where we stand out against competitors. There's people like myself and Courtney staffed every accounts. We have personal relationships with these users. We're traveling and meeting them. We know when their kids have soccer games, and we have long-standing, sometimes multi-year relationships with these people that it's harder to cancel on Factset because it's a person and it's a face and it's a friend, versus Bloomberg is a little bit more, you can reach out to their support desk maybe and get a ticket and talk to a robot and have them answer your question. Factset really prides itself in being a partner with the client and putting a lot of emphasis on that support. I don't know, Courtney, if you,
Thank you. I appreciate the
any
answer.
additional questions off of that or any thoughts?
I wanted to mention for the students that are on the jobs, they are posted in Handshake right now. So I know the client services internship is there. I didn't see the full-time one, but when you go into Handshake, there are 2 Factsets that are listed. You want to click on the Factset Data Analytics. The other one is just kind of a side Factset. It's just a smaller profile that's on there. So Factset Data, Factset Research Systems is the one you click on. And then the position itself is, let's see, Client Solutions Internship. And then I think you said, Courtney, that there's also the full-time position that will be posted as well.
Yes, so the full-time position is technically called a Client Solutions Associate role. And the reason I want to point that out is because the associate still means you're applying for the consulting role. It's just you are an associate until you complete training. So that's kind of what confuses people sometimes about our application is, even though it says associate, you are ultimately going to become a consultant, but before you can become a consultant, we do have that robust training program. So that's why the role is listed as Client Solutions Associate instead.
Okay. And then Saif asked about the 2023. I believe it's still open for another couple weeks for the internship, posted on there right now.
Yes, it should still be open for another few weeks. We do always try to recommend that, not particularly for the internship, but for the full-time role, we do have a rolling application, which means you can kind of apply whenever, but we do hire in waves. And what I mean by that is we have an October class, a June class, and a February class every year. So those are the 3 start dates. It's just going to be those 3 start dates. So for example, I believe I applied in November or December when I applied, and like I was applying for the October class. So I applied very early. At the time, they did ask me during the interviews, are you looking for June or October? Because they had already filled February. So it's just something to note to make sure if you're really particularly, like if you want to start in June, you know that June's for you, you're going to want to try to apply earlier in the year. Like for example, right now, our February is obviously going to be full because February is actually tomorrow. Wow, coming around so quick. But yeah, so I always like to recommend try to apply at least like 6 months out to ensure you can get the start date that you want. And if it does come down to a matter of there, like the head count's already full or that start date, we already have too many people for it, they can offer you as well to just start at the next start date. So if they say June's full, would you be willing to take the summer off and start in October? That can be a conversation you can have with our recruiters as well.
Okay. Kartiki, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, sure. So, are there any specific skills that you're looking for the full-time roles? And also, I have another quick question that, so I'm a graduate student and I am looking for like OPT sponsorship. So does Factset do that?
That's a great question. So first, to go off of that skills question, I think for both the internship and the full-time role, we kind of look for the same similar skills just because oftentimes the internship does lead to a full-time role. Obviously, that's not guaranteed. It kind of depends on how you do in the internship and other aspects of like business need and things like that. But this actual past summer, I believe we had 6 interns and I think we gave them all offers and I believe they're all coming back actually, which is really exciting. So it does happen. So it does happen frequently. So we do look for those similar skills of being eager to learn, having strong communication skills, being able to work well with others, having that analytical background. And even if you're not a finance major or a tech major of some sort, just having basic financial and tech knowledge, that way you're able to hold conversations with those in those industries and understand exactly what our clients are looking for. I would say those are the main skills. As of right now, I don't believe that we are offering sponsorships, but that is something that you could talk to the recruiter about in that first initial call, and they can kind of work through what the best options would be with you. So that's why we kind of start with that first initial recruiter call so they can go through all of the logistics for different scenarios.
Thank you.
Courtney, any roles outside of the country? So the 22 different countries that you do business in, is there, when they're talking with that recruiter conversation, is that something they could ask about?
Yeah, I believe, and Katie, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, that when you apply, you can kind of specify the locations that you're applying for, because the recruiters can be different by region, just due to the nature of, in other regions, there might be a different language that they want the employees to be proficient in, or things like that. So I think when you go through the application process, you actually do specify what region you're applying for, and then from there, they'll connect you with the appropriate recruiter for that initial recruiter call to ensure that you're getting the correct information for the region that you're choosing.
Excellent.
Yeah, we have, like we said, we have offices all over the globe. So there are positions all over the globe. It's the same rotational program in a lot of global offices. So you're going to get the same training, the same experience, just in a different office. So again, like Courtney said, just something to mention to the recruiter. We've had a lot of you, actually someone that we met at the UConn Business Expo is interested in a position in Australia. So they're talking with recruiting right now to see if they can get the position they'd been offered in New York to move that to Australia. There's also flexibility once you're within Factset to move locations too. We see that all the time. And Factset's really supportive of that and encouraging. So certainly something to ask the recruiter.
Excellent. And you are back in the office, correct? Or is some
We're
of the
on a
work
hybrid
remote?
model right now.
Hybrid.
So
Okay.
in Boston, we're in on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Some people are in 5 days a week. Some people don't want to go in at all. It's kind of strongly encouraged that you're in on Wednesdays and Thursdays. So if there's any reasons that you can't make that happen, the managers are super flexible, which is amazing. And it's really just a conversation that needs to happen. But I would say the baseline expectation is that you can get to an office 2 days a week.
Okay. And I think we talked about the fact that there's that first recruiter call. Then there's is the next interview. I know there's a super day, but in between there, is it an in-person interview or a virtual one?
So right now we're still conducting all of our interviews virtually, including the super day.
Okay.
The reason we're doing this is just by nature of with COVID and with traveling, it's a little bit easier for college students to hop on a call. Like we mentioned, we are a global company. So if you wanted to apply for the Australia office, just using Katie's example, it's a little bit more difficult to get you to go all the way to Australia for that interview. So it kind of standardizes it across the board and gives everyone equal and fair opportunity if it's all virtual. And additionally to the role itself, with us being hybrid and a lot of our clients being hybrid or even still fully remote, we do expect that you're able to conduct yourself in a virtual environment because a lot of our meetings with clients are virtual. So if you do have those things like technical difficulties, or if there is something going on where you need to like share your screen or anything like that, we want to make sure you're able to do those things, because honestly, most of the world has kind of shifted to a hybrid environment. So this whole virtual communication skill set is a little bit new to everyone. So making sure that our employees are able to tackle those situations is something we definitely look for.
And it is, I believe, Courtney, it's the one initial phone call interview, and then the second one is the super day, and there's no interview in between.
I believe so.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Kathy?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
And just being mindful of your time. Are there any students who wanted to raise their hand and ask a question? This is the time, if you're on now, to say hello. They're always going to raise their hand after we hang up.
If anything comes up after the call, we're always happy to answer more questions as well. But don't be shy. Definitely speak up now, but always an option too.
I'll wait. 1, 2, 3, 4. Because I can.
I'll ask one more final question for the group here, and thank you both to, again, coming in, Courtney and Catherine, and really giving us great insight about your organization. As far as your experiences and things that you truly loved about being part of Factset, what's that driver for you guys being part of the team at Factset that really makes you excited each and every day to be part of a great community at Factset?
I'm so happy you asked that. That is probably my favorite question to get. I can go first since I'm already kind of jumping ahead here. I would say my favorite things about Factset is there's kind of two things that I always like to highlight when someone asks me this question. The first is, I know a lot of people will say this, but the people at Factset have truly become my best friends. Even my friends outside of Factset sometimes joke that I'm a little too obsessed with my coworkers because we really do get really close, and we do hang out outside of work, and we do, like Katie said, love to help each other internally at work as well. Like, for example, Katie's class has moved on to new roles. They've had career progression already, whereas I'm still in my consulting role. And I know I can just turn to Katie when she's sitting next to me in the office and say, hey, when you were in consulting, did you ever work with an ADF flat file? And she'll just walk me through the entire thing right there on the spot and be eager and happy to help me. And I really feel like that's something in the finance industry in general you don't always hear about, because you think of it being really competitive and cutthroat, but Factset really is a collaborative team environment, so you still get to feel the finance and feel kind of those like high stake pressures that you would see across the finance industry, while still knowing you're supported and that you have all of these resources and that everyone around you genuinely wants you to succeed. And then the other side of it that is a little bit less cliche, I would say, is the fact that I never feel like I'm doing the same thing every day. And for me, that was something that was really important, that I was kind of afraid of when I was going into finance when I first started in this industry, because a lot of people think when you're starting out, you're kind of like a pencil pusher. It's very mundane. If you're an intern, you're just going to be getting coffee, like things like that. But by no means is it like that at all at Factset. They really trust you to work with these high stakes clients and these very important people almost from day one. Like, once you're done with training, you are client facing, you are talking to CEOs of companies, you are talking to people you probably thought you'd never have the opportunity to be in front of in your life, honestly. And they trust you, and they will ask you questions that you may not know the answer to, and that's honestly fun and great, because then you get to use a little bit of detective work on your own and kind of take their information and their requests back and really research the best solution. And sometimes you can come up with a really creative new way of doing things that no one else has thought of before. So I feel like my day-to-day is constantly evolving, and I'm constantly learning, and our platform itself is constantly growing, so there's always a new application to learn about. There's always a new internal certification that I can get to expand my knowledge of both the industry or the platform. So I really do like that it's just it's different every day. It's not something that you're going to like walk into a day and say, okay, this is going to be just like yesterday. It's always going to be evolving and changing. So you as an individual will always be growing both in your FactSet knowledge and in your industry knowledge, and honestly in your people knowledge as well, being able to communicate with people who are in a sense intimidating or that you didn't think you'd ever have the opportunity to speak with. I'll pass it to Katie to hear what
Yeah,
favorites are.
I'll keep it short and sweet, but I totally have to echo everything Courtney said. A theme you'll see at FactSet is the people and the culture. And I know Kathy mentioned it, but we just won Glassdoor's Best Places to Work for 2022. These people are so supportive, so encouraging, so eager to help. I think Courtney said this as well, but like want you to succeed. And when I had interviewed for the current position that I'm in, I think I'd gotten like 10 separate messages the morning of my interview wishing me good luck. People I was interviewing against were wishing me good luck for this role. So people genuinely care. We eat lunch together every single day in the office. We reserve a conference room just so that we have a table big enough so that we can all eat lunch together in the middle of the day. And any time anyone leaves FactSet or joins FactSet, it's the most welcoming environment. The second you walk into FactSet, you're part of the family, you're part of the group. We have jokes, and it's just really an amazing environment. And the second thing, kind of what Courtney said, a little bit different. I felt like I was really making a difference, and that's the most cliche way I can say it. But I was 6 months into my career having coding conversations with vice presidents at State Street. If you had told me 6 months ago that I'd be doing that, I'd say you are crazy, no way. And now I'm traveling on a plane by myself to some of the biggest institutional asset managers in the world and having conversations with C-suite employees. And I'm confident in those conversations, and I know the product that I'm backing, and it's an amazing product. But I pinch myself all the time because I said, I'm only 2.5 years into this career. How am I doing these things that are so significant and like really material? You feel like you're making a difference. You know you're making a difference. We put interns in client meetings. We give interns client work. You're not doing little intern worksheets and like test example problems. Like you're doing real work that a real client, a wealth manager out there in the world has this problem, and we're going to have the intern solve it for them. So from day one, you just really feel like what you're doing is maybe a little intimidating and over your head, but also so exciting and so thrilling that you're being trusted with this and that you're really making a difference. So I know we probably went a little cliche on you guys, but as you can tell, Courtney and I are really cheerleaders for FactSet, and we call ourselves FactSetters, everyone. So they're just the FactSetter mentality is really, really strong, and hopefully that comes across.
Great answer. It's awesome to hear you guys are collaborative, supportive, and also rewarding. Between employees and seeing that fostering growth amongst colleagues and cheering them on in their success. What a great organization. I'll definitely pass the baton back to you, Kathy.
All right, thank you. I just want Michael posted a question, so this will be our last question. And I appreciate both of you taking so much time with everybody and being so gracious and kind and generous with all of your thoughts. Michael, do you want to go on camera and ask your question? Because I did see that you were on camera.
Yeah. So you guys did mention that FactSet is like one of the fastest growing applications in its field. How is the company and the application like looking to expand over the next few years? Because you guys like are moving in like the US and Canada and stuff like that.
Yeah, great question. We're kind of expanding at all angles. There's a bunch of different ways we're expanding. Like I mentioned, deep sector data is one. So just gathering new data that's never been collected before. We're going to banks and seeing what the transactions and withdrawals and deposits are, and bankers are using that information. So really, really great information. Technology is a huge part of it. You can't stay competitive in this world today without technology and being on the forefront of what's happening. So things like APIs are huge right now. Direct data feeds, Snowflake, AWS, partnering with web services in the cloud. And FactSet is ahead of a lot of our competitors, very much ahead of a lot of our competitors in the tech space, and really working to get off platform and be ahead of the curve. A lot of our competitors are kind of stuck in the past with the way things work, which is great, and they're great at what they do. But FactSet's looking to stay ahead of the curve and stay ahead of technology. We're bringing cryptocurrency onto our platform now, which is something that a lot of market data providers just won't touch. It's too crazy, it's too chaotic, and they don't even want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. But yeah, I would really say that expansion in tech, expansion in content, we're growing employee-wise. We've been growing at an exponential rate every year, supporting our clients more and more. We're gathering on new clients. We're signing huge wealth deals. I know I mentioned wealth was one. These are thousands of people who will now log on to their job each morning and open Factset that weren't before. So really, there's all different teams going in different directions, but I would say technology is a main theme, and then expanding our content has been a main theme as well.
Nice question, Michael. All right, well, fact setters, we so appreciate you. I think I have a feeling we could stay on for another half an hour asking questions because there's just so much joy in the conversation. But we appreciate you. For the students who are watching this later on our YouTube channel, please make sure that you're watching Handshake for the Jobs, that you're connecting with Courtney and Katie on LinkedIn and staying connected with a really fast growing, exciting company. So thank you to everyone, and I'm going to stop recording now.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Kathy, for setting this up. If anyone does have any follow-up questions, like definitely feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. You can just search us by our names, and obviously, if it says that we work at Factset, it's definitely us. We're happy to answer anything else. We love seeing UConn alumni come through, so definitely excited to be here, excited to talk to you all, and as always, go Huskies.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.